Here, I, Devanshi Shah, would like to welcome you all to the inauguration ceremony of second PGCL SAARC International Moot Court Competition 2022. Achieving greatness is more than just about potential. It is the execution of that potential. Beyond the raw ideation, you need the appropriate planning. You need the discipline. You need the inspiration. You need the drive. The Moot Court Society was founded on the very foundation of stimulating the spirit of mooting among the students of the institution by rendering various opportunities to proliferate participation while catering to the legal exigencies. The Society launches an array of events on a national as well as intra-collegiate levels to promote legal awareness and nurtures the profession loyal. With the panoramic vision of greatness and a longer way ahead, the Moot Court Society is all set to explore the seas with its voyage to promote justice, which shall bring the SAARC nations together once again for a cause of righteousness and the sense of responsibility for posterity. The competition envisions to address the growing concerns that have crucified the development of SAARC nations individually and as a global symbolism of unity with strength. Thus, it endeavors to uphold the welfare-based objectives and mutual cooperative principles of SAARC and aim to architect neoteric solutions which can be fulfilled in reality at the ground level. We welcome our enthusiastic professional international brothers and sisters across boundaries to come forth and witness the fostering of our cause. I would now like to call upon our additional chairperson, Mr. 𝗗𝗏𝗶𝗏, to take over.
Thank you so much, Devanshi. Can you just give me a heads up whether I'm audible or not? All right. Thank you so much. Firstly, good afternoon to everyone present here. Until 2 years back, it was just an idea of a former principal, late Dr. 𝗚𝘂𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗍𝗍 sir. The idea that motivated us all to bring the SAARC nations together and have a moot court competition wherein the participants contest over issues that are commonly faced by the South Asian nations. Last year, we shaped that idea into a reality. We organized the first SAARC International Moot Court Competition 2021. In the times of pandemic, while we were combating the crisis which has driven us to the edge of our existence, we at the Moot Court Society were committing to show a cooperation and collection of resilience. Hence, we organized the first SAARC International Moot Court Competition 2021 with the theme being International Drug Cartel. The first edition of PGCL SAARC IMCC took place over 4 days. Due to stringent lockdown restrictions and the state of pandemic at that time, the tournament had to be held virtually, and which is unfortunately the same this year as well. However, this year we aim to achieve a new milestone by making our institute bring together young budding law students and experienced lawyers and academicians in furtherance of our goal to improve geopolitics of the world. The theme for second edition of SAARC International Moot Court Competition 2022 is Humanitarian Refugee Crisis. I, on behalf of the Moot Court Society, express my heartfelt gratitude to our knowledge partner, MZM Legal, for their kind assistance and support. We, as the committee, wish all the participating teams all the very best and look forward towards a healthy competition. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Now I would like to call upon our principal, Dr. 𝗚𝗏𝗶𝗏, to kindly say a few words.
Hello, hi. Am I audible? Can I get it? Yeah, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. In the beginning, a very good afternoon to one and all present here. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our guest of honor, Professor 𝗷𝗶𝗏𝗍𝗏. We are indeed thankful for accepting our invitation. I'm sure your expertise on South Asia will throw a light on the on the conceptual issues underlying the Moot problem. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. And also, this is the second, like my fellow student have already pointed out, this is the second time that we are organizing the SAARC International Moot, and he has given a beautiful background narration behind the idea of conceptualizing the SAARC Moot. And I must thank and appreciate the organizing team for selecting and area of common concern of SAARC, which is a humanitarian crisis fueled by migration. And my special thanks to the MZM Legal for drafting the Moot problem so nicely. And I was going through the Moot problem, and one thing that came into my mind when I was going through the Moot problem is that there is a kind of an interlinked case between the humanitarian crisis, which is the food security in this case, and the migration issue. And in South Asia, in all over the world actually, and particularly in South Asia, a pattern of migration. What is the pattern of migration we normally see in the South Asia region? It is a question of people moving from one state to another state. The migration is happening mainly because of the fact that there is real poverty, primarily triggered by agricultural productivity decline or lack of employment opportunities. So therefore, the people migrate to another state. That is how the cross-border migration happens. Then the impact is felt in the receiving state. So the receiving state, there is a kind of a social, economic, physical pressures on everything available. So in this case, it was primarily to do with food security. Now, food security, to provide food security is the responsibility of the government of every state. So what happens? Can the government be unbiased in providing food security to everyone? Food security, what it means, if you go by the definition as given by FAO, it's like providing every individual an access to having nutritious food, safe, sufficient nutritious food to maintain a kind of an active, a healthy well-being. Now, in this case, the problem is primarily that there has been an allegation that there has been a food security and there has been a kind of a deliberate denial of food supply to these people and resulting in a kind of a loss of lives, which has been accused to be the genocide. That is what I understood the problem. So the task of the student is to prove that whether the act was deliberate or unintended. That is the main thing. That is the students of all the students participating from different SAARC countries has to break their legal brains by getting into the nitty-gritties of the law, and also, of course, they have to look into the history behind it. The concepts are there. So I'm sure the mooting will be great fun. Okay, so we start on a right note by having an understanding of the concept underlying the Moot problem. So with this, I hand over to my student. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. I would now like to call upon our faculty in charge for the Moot Court Society, Dr. 𝗬𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗶.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would just begin by thanking one and all for being present here. Good afternoon to one and all, and thank you for having spent your time from your schedule to grace this particular occasion. We are indeed honored to host you all. Going backwards to the year 2017, when the idea of having an international moot court competition on a criminal issue, which had been mooted by our principal then, Dr. Dwivedi, where he mentioned about in some conversations that we need to have a particular moot problem, particularly for the SAARC countries, and trying to host it rather than participating. The idea of hosting was that you are also going to learn in the entire process while you are trying to host it. So that's how in 2017, I remember the communications very clearly. We began this in the year 2021, and the idea was like executed with the help of our Moot Court Society members, and then we approached MZM Legal, who became our knowledge partner. Since last year, they have been providing us with their moot proposition, trying to go into and trying to even give the clarifications whatever has come across from the students. And that's how thank you so much to the MZM Legal, particularly with Swapnil, who has been coordinating with our students and bringing forward this moot problem. After that, we had the next process of trying to now all the required permissions and all. So that's how the role of our management, 𝗍𝘂𝗵𝗂𝘀𝘐𝑉𝑙𝑖 comes in. And as usual, wholeheartedly, they said like wherever there is learning, entire support goes to the college and the institution. So that's how the entire thing was executed. Since last 4 months, these students have now started working on the entire preparation. The Moot Court Society members headed by Amit, Mansi and Nitisha, with the other members who are almost like 30 in all. I would not be able to take all the names, but they are wholeheartedly, like last 4 months they have put in everything, including the academic assignments. We had exams, we had presentations, research. With all that, they have tried to bring this together. So that's how then later on, what is the learning then for them? Their learning continues with hearing them. Their learning continues with hearing each one of you all while you all are trying to Moot. Their hearing would continue with inviting and coordinating with the 50 odd judges that we have in the next 4 days. Okay, so do expect a lot of dignitaries with a lot of experts that they have put in their efforts in inviting them, and in the process of also briefing them. That's how the learning for our students continues. We are extremely delighted to host today our guest, Professor 𝗍𝗂𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗍𝗂, who would be addressing on the refugee crisis in SAARC. Thank you, sir, so much for accepting our invitation. We begin the inauguration today and the rounds tomorrow onwards for the next 4 days. I would wish all the participants a very best for the rounds. Just one suggestion, just put in your 100% in whatever side you are representing, and I am sure that each one of you will reach your maximum potential. Rest assured, in case of any issues, MCS will be available 24/7 and would do whatever best they can. I now extend my wishes to our MCS students on behalf of all of us in faculty here, and I'm confident that you will rock as usual. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your unending support. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Juhi Shah to introduce our chief guest, Professor Dr. 𝗍𝗂𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗍𝗂𝗧.
Thank you, Devanshi. Good afternoon, everyone. The theme of the competition, being Humanitarian Refugee Crisis, aims to create awareness amongst the participants to critically analyze the growing concern in relation to the current scenario and options for protecting refugees in the Southeast Asian region. With this, I find immense pleasure in introducing our guest of honor, Professor Dr. 𝗍𝗂𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗍𝗂𝗧, who is currently a visiting faculty at Mumbai University and Pune University. Sir is an inspiration for many, as the accomplishments he has made are not an easy task. Sir holds various degrees, including MA in Political Science, LLB and PhD from Mumbai University. Sir has completed his fellowships from Senior Fulbright and Ford Scholar, University of Illinois, USA, Fellow of University of Wisconsin, Fellow German Academic Council. He also holds Certificate of Distinction from Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, Cambridge, USA. Sir has a working experience of 45 years, and he has lectured in the top universities across the world while teaching various subjects like Indian government and politics, political theory and thought, and international relations. Previously, Sir has also held positions like Head of Department of Political Science and Dean of MS University of Baroda. Apart from various achievements, Sir has published 7 books and 58 articles in national and international journals. Sir, it is truly an honorable moment for our college to have your prestigious presence in today's event. We are all truly inspired by you. Now, I request Sir to address the gathering and share his insights on humanitarian and refugee crises faced in the SAARC nations. Thank you.
हाँ, श्रीकांत जी को आने के लिए बोलो. हाँ, तो बोल दे कि मैं साइन कर दिया. ठीक है.
Apologies, everybody. Sir is just joining us in a minute. He's facing a network issue. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yes. So I'm using my mobile.
Sir's video
and,
is. Sir, your video is not visible. Camera. Sir, video is not visible, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now fine.
Is it okay?
Yes. Now it is fine, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, let me tell you that for a very long period of time, I've been working on international relation theory, law, and maybe, the interstate relations and foreign policies. When I got invitation from Madam 𝗓𝗔𝗂𝗏, she said she has met me somewhere, but I'm sure I would recollect and revive my contact with her. See, the talk that I'm going to make is going to be a bit of international relations theory, bit of examples from various angles, and then I will touch upon some of the issues which have arisen out of human rights and I would say migration, immigration, etc. The distinguished people, if there's a dais, the organizers, Madam 𝗓𝗔𝗂𝗏, and the aspiring lawyers of today or tomorrow. It's a pleasure to be here, except for the fact that the last couple of weeks have been awfully, busy with numerous things. With the result, I just got 2 days preparation, just half a day each, and whatever I could think of relevant points to this topic. Let me begin with a very interesting theory which I have been using on and often. It's a flexible theory, and the theory is called owl. Now, I am not meaning the real owl, but it refers to 3 terms. One is order, legitimacy, welfare, and the principal of the college, Dr. Shikha, and future lawyers. I can see them smiling here, and the students of the law college, ladies and gentlemen. I was talking to myself for 45 minutes. I didn't realize. Probably that's what you call it, a generation gap between the present and the future generations. Because, see, I'm not very, I never bothered to know much about the technical part of the, I have given lots of lectures, but they went without any problem. Anyway, so I start my, narratives on the topic which I have slightly modified. The reason being that within a short period of time, I could not devote a lot of time in preparing this to the point. The reason was that I've been awfully busy for the last few days, few weeks rather, and therefore my apology for spoiling your time, and once again coming with the same enthusiasm I'll be able to speak. Anyway, so here I'm going to actually start with the kind of a theory which is very simple, which I have developed over a period of time. That theory is called OWL, OWL, is nothing to do with the real owl, but it refers to three terms. One is, order, welfare, and order, welfare, and legitimacy. Order, welfare, and legitimacy. This is the theory. Now, so far as this particular theory is concerned, it can be applied at the universal level, at the state level, and at the society level also. Now, what we mean by order, you must have heard so many court scenes on the TV, where if there is a little noise or commotion in the court, the judge will say, order, order. Have you ever thought what exactly order means? Like if we were in actuality, I would have really asked you the answer for it, because I also used to, use this word without understanding for a number of years. Then I realized that what is this order? And then I said that order, welfare, legitimacy, these are the things could be, three things could be combined. So order means a kind of a situation or a kind of a environment where you can do your things, you can smoothly and freely conduct the activity that you like. So when there is a commotion in the court cannot conduct its proceedings quietly and peacefully. So he says that quiet, allow me to create a situation by which I can do proper hearing and proper justice. This is what order means. So when you apply this particular thing to at the international level, then it means that the entire world is able to create a kind of a situation where there is justice, freedom to all, equality to all, and fraternity among all people, irrespective of their caste, color, creed, ideological or regional differences. This is what I mean by a kind of an order. If the things are okay, that means 100% okay at the universal level, global level, then that is an ideal situation, or one would call it an ideal state of Plato, the Greek philosopher. But then, right ever since the invention of this civilization, I don't think we ever had the order in the society or at the state level or at the universal level. As if you take the ancient times, then those ancient times where people could not go beyond their land. So there could be a conflict between, say, Sparta and Athens, or sometimes within the Spain or within the Americans or within the European continent. But then as the communication developed, science and technology in the 19th century, before that maybe 50 years prior to that, people started venturing out and the world has started becoming small or closer to each other. And today we are on the threshold of a situation where we can easily see each other, like you are almost about 400 kilometers away from me, but I can see your faces, I can see whether you're laughing or you're getting bored, and everything I can do. Now, this is the situation in which, we operate. So in other words, what we call it a global village, the entire thing, the universe has become a global village whereby communication, either audio or a visual communication, then transportation, everything is revolutionized. So through this revolution now today, we have reached a stage where all our issues of human rights, then what you call it a migration, then socio-economic condition, political condition, everything is related to a particular lifestyle that is welfare. So order, welfare are two connected things. If the order is not there, the welfare cannot exist. If welfare is not there, the state legitimacy is lost. The state has no right to exist. That's what I mean by order, welfare, and legitimacy. Moving further, now when you talk about the order, the philosophers have done a rigorous job in finding out what is good and evil. So when the concept of freedom was developed, they emphatically stated that it does not mean that you can do anything that you like. You're walking and suddenly you can't, hit somebody, or you can't drive a car without the rules and regulations. So our freedom was restricted to control our unwanted behavior. To give gali to somebody or give, hurt somebody physically or orally, all that is not permitted, and that is restricted by law. What you are going to do or what you are studying, that's the law. So law puts restriction on certain principles whereby you can only enjoy good freedom. You can always, think in terms of equality, and obviously freedom and equality is also related to fraternity. Now, when I talk about this, it's the equality of all with everybody. Equality of sex, equality of economic condition, equality of social condition, irrespective of any other inequality. You are a human being, and accordingly humans are to be given a proper status in the society or in the state. This is what I mean by order, welfare and legitimacy. If the order is not there, the welfare gets affected. If the welfare gets affected, then that particular state has no, we call it a weak state, or we call it a failed state, or even we call it some different name, that the state has no right to exist, because state is the highest society that the human beings have created for the welfare. First we had a family, then we found that the family was not adequate enough to fulfill all our requirements. So we went a step further and created a society. And then society also had certain limitations to fulfill all the functions. So we went a step ahead and created the state. And then we expected that the state should do all these activities or perform all the functions which are related to welfare of the people, irrespective of people's, caste, color, creed, religion, ethnic or economic conditions. The dignity of man has to be maintained as a dignity. But then what we see in the world, we find the world is completely, I would say, fractured. We in political science or international relations, we use the word fractured world order. So this fractured world order, which means that universally, if you take the people in Rwanda, or if you take the people in Congo or Kenya or Uganda, or quite a few African countries, you find that the people are fighting on ethnic basis, killing each other, even worse than the animals. Like you must have seen a couple of movies or read a couple of books, how the inhuman activities are being carried out. Sometimes the imperialism also results into a disastrous behavior of the soldiers. Like you may have known, the Portuguese soldiers in Angola, they used to raid the people, kill people, pregnant women. Their tummy was, cut into pieces, and then they would say, okay, this is the guy who was going to born as a freedom fighter. The young newborn babies were thrown on the ground and they were crushed with their boots. Now, this kind of atrocities were committed. Why? Because they wanted to continue with the imperialism. But then the imperialism gone, and many Afro-Asian countries becoming independent did not end with the kind of atrocities or inequality that was being actually seen by the people of the world. Now, if you see India and Pakistan, or if you see Myanmar, or if you see Bangladesh, or if you see Ceylon. Now, you take example, we start with Sri Lanka. What happened? There was an ethnic conflict between the two groups, the Tamils and the Sinhalese. Now, here the state tried to intervene to establish peace But then the state was not able to do it, and with the result, the Sri Lankan state had to ask for external help. In the similar way, if you take the case of, say, East Pakistan, a wonderful development that took place. The East Pakistanis, that is Bengalis, they had a different culture, and they were dominated. They said that they were dominated by the Punjabi culture, and if they were Bengalis, lot of discrimination was done in the government job, the state jobs, or in society, and they were treated as second-class citizens. So the movement had started under Mujibur Rahman, and then, you know, when the movement started for a separate state of Bangladesh, there was a complete showdown by the Pakistan army. Hundreds and thousands of women were raped, children were killed, intellectuals were killed, and there was a complete massacre of people in the former East Pakistan. Now here, why I'm saying this, that here the politics comes in the picture, international politics comes in the picture, international human rights issue comes in the picture, and how human rights issue had played in liberating Bangladesh without much difficulty. See, listen to the word, without much difficulty. When this was happening, nearly 10 million refugees crossed over to India. The question that of, you know, law and order, the question that of feeding them, question that of accommodating them, and there, you know, the things became so indifferent for the India to survive as a state. Mrs. Gandhi went, and then, you know, what happened was that Americans were favoring Pakistan, and they were actually showing Nelson's eye to the atrocities that was committed by the Pakistan army. Now, Mrs. Gandhi, I'm cutting the whole story short. Mrs. Gandhi went to America, knowing that Kissinger and Nixon were not favoring India's liberation support. And therefore, what Mrs. Gandhi did, she went beyond the state and reached the common man in the public. And she addressed the people in a New York City and said that this is what your weapons are doing, this is what your ally is doing, and this is a complete violation of human rights. Now, this particular phenomena completely changed the public opinion of Americans, and they pressurized American government that you ought to do something or you ought not to do something by which this particular activity continues. And then the Indians, you know, attacked Bangladesh, East Pakistan, and liberated. Now, this is how the whole thing, the concept of human rights, the respect for human rights amongst the common man, American society, and they actually oppose their own government. So respect for human rights comes only when the virtue of the society, the finer sentiments of the society are being respected. No, this is what is an injustice done to the people of Bangladesh, and one ought to do, or India has done a right thing, and India was justified in attacking and starting a war on Bangladesh issue. In the similar way, at certain points, you know, in say Myanmar, the Rohingya were kind of the Myanmar throwing the hunger, starvation, nakedness, and their health condition. If you have seen on the TV, I think you will not be able to, a sentimental person will not be able to see that. And they were thrown in the Indian side. Was condemned. when the great powers or superpowers are not sincerely interested, like for Myanmar, for them it's a different kind of a, you know, proposition. Why? Because strategically Myanmar came into prominence only after the Chinese entry into Myanmar. And then they suddenly realized that we must do something for Myanmar. And in order to pressurize Chinese, they also condemned Myanmar government for committing atrocities on Rohingyas. Now, you have history this kind of atrocities when Spanish, if you have read the history of Spain, then there also such a, when he was born, Egyptian, astrologer predicted that this man is born for committing, cruelty on the mankind. This was true. Hundreds and thousands of people were persecuted in the name of, Christianity. Then you take example of Hitler. Hitler, on the ethnic basis, he thought that the Jews were a liability, Jews were anti-national, Jews were a, big burden on German society. So he started persecuting them. And if you have known the stories, unfortunately, what happens is like many students these days, they do not, go beyond their syllabus. I would strongly, like when I refer to what atrocities were committed by Hitler and students of law, you must know how many thousand Jews were killed. And Jews are a very, very, I would say, creative community. They have gone to America, Einstein, if you take, or they have gone to America and have done miracle with science and technology. They have done miracle in Israel after Israel was formed. But so how many thousand such competent, mentally and physically competent people were lost just by one particular notion of one man, Hitler. And this is how the atrocities are committed. They are biased. See, I would be little frank without any reservation. But then today, how many of us are biased towards Muslims? I was actually looking to the history of partition. There was no difference whatsoever between them. And I would like to make a point which is not consistent with this point. But if Pakistan and India was not created, and if we are talking about Akhand Bharat, then let me tell you, there would have been a rebellion, there would have been a civil war, and that war would have been worse than what happened during the partition. Anyway, it's a different kind of a, argument. And it requires a lot of details to convince the audience how this particular theme could work or did not work. So here, when you talk about the prejudice, it is actually, I would say, anti-human, because most of the societies in the world are multicultural. If you have read the book by 𝗵𝘂𝗶𝗵, an Indian scholar settled in London. Beautiful book he's written on cultural aspect of the people, what they feel about it. Like even today we have a notion, the North Indians feel that the South Indians are like this, how they eat, why they eat like this. But then over a period of time, there's a transformation. Dosa is available in Ladakh also. Idli sambar is also available in Ladakh. And we had a lovely time in eating that. Dosa is available in Mizoram. And I was just surprised, Dosa is available in every nook and corner of Assam. Now, anyway, why I'm saying this, that people have over a period of time, it is churned, the society is churned. Hundreds and thousands of South Indians have gone and settled in North. Hundreds and thousands of North Indians have gone and settled in Bangalore, Chennai, Madurai, Trivandrum. Many people have gone. And there is something like, you must have seen the movie called Two States. Then immediately there's a smile on your face, because I would like to give this example so that you don't get bored in the lecture. Anyway, so coming back to this particular issue, we talked about the world order. See, world order, when everybody is, happy economically, socially, and they get the respect as a human being, then that particular world is ideal world. Like if you have read political science a little bit, then Plato said that I want to create an ideal world, the best world. And then he said that if educated people, knowledgeable people, the philosophers, if they become rulers, like Nehru had a vision of India, a fantastic intellectual, and had a vision. And then today we are demeaning Nehru. That's not right. If Nehru has done good things, if he was intellectual, we must recognize his service to the nation. So even if somebody does, if I don't believe in, if I don't like a particular person, but if he's doing a good work, My job is to appreciate him. Anyway, so coming back to this particular point of the world order, that probably where, economic justice is done to each and every human being living on this world, social justice is done, economic justice is done, political justice is done, and there is something called environment of fraternity all over the world. But then, right from the invention of the state system and the societies, mind you, there has not been an ideal world. There has not been a world with order. And with the result, this particular, phenomena is also seen in the states. None of the states are complete, or none of the states are, having order by which, they can do justice to all the people, all the citizens, irrespective. Mind you, you have learned a constitutional law. So each caste, color, or a birth, or a region, everybody has to be done a justice. Poor or rich, they should got equal justice from the society. Now, this justice is slightly different, When you talk about, say, social justice, I should not be identifying a person because he's not of my community, or not my religion, or not my, thing. Now, you take example, love jihad. Now, a middle class or a lower caste getting married to a Muslim girl, or a Muslim girl married to a Hindu boy, it's called love jihad. And then we ridicule it in the society. State has a law. You can marry anybody whom you like. You have a choice. But then the society does not approve of it, and the society and the state come into clash with each other. If the state is biased, then they will look the other way around. If the society has killed somebody, or society has done something on the caste basis or the religious basis, mind you. And this is probably the suffering of the middle class, lower middle class, and the poor people. If Shah Rukh Khan marries a Hindu girl, people will not have the courage to challenge him. If Dilip Kumar or anybody had married a Hindu girl, I'm sorry, it would have been okay. So there actually operating on a history. So we cannot touch them. But wherever we can do our dadagiri at the middle class level or a lower class level, we try to, attack them, or try to punish them by tying them to the tree and beat them up or kill them. Now, this is what is being done. Dowry, again, that system in the society is also a denial of human right to a woman. Then discrimination of women, or dowry system, it's all injustice done to the woman. Now, from this perspective, when I go further, so no society is actually perfect. Imperfect societies are there, and mainly in the conservative states like Pakistan or India, or if you take Bangladesh, or if you take Myanmar, or if you take Sri Lanka, they just fail to understand the values of freedom, equality, fraternity, or justice. I have to see that if I want to enjoy my freedom, it does not mean that I enjoy my freedom at the cost of someone else. Even I earn my money, it does not mean that I earn 100 rupees where the other man only earns 2 rupees. Now, all these factors, are very much applicable in our day-to-day life. Now, sometimes, I go to the temple. I go regularly, not every week, I go, and I put some 50 rupees, or sometimes 10 rupees, or sometimes whatever it is, but I put that money. So my friend, who's a Brahmin, he said, why do you put? But God does not, God is not poor. I said, I'm not giving it to the God. I don't know whether God exists or not. But the question is that when I put this money, it is actually utilized for the maintenance of the temple, the religious place. But that particular donation, like there are temples who earn crores of rupees. There's a temple, I visited that place, and I was taken to that temple, some goddess. Their daily earning is 10 lakhs of rupees, minimum. off season. But in good season, probably it goes over 50-60 lakhs per day. And what happens to that money? That money has to come back to the poor people. I entered the temple and I was given lovely shira, that halwa, as a prasad. So I said that outside there are 200 beggars sitting there, and all the time their hand is like this. So I said that why don't you give them some food instead of, I don't require that particular food. I was asked to have lunch with them. I said, no, I don't want to have lunch. I don't need it. But why don't you give it to these poor people? Then he said, no, our dharma says those who are the devotees, they can't enter the temple because they are poor or some caste, which is not accepted by the Indian society. Then I said, then I would still like you pack my food. So he packed in a small box. I went outside, and I tell you, there was literally people jumped on me to get that food. Literally jumped. I saved myself by running away from that, getting into the car, and then the pujari, called me and said, "Dekha sahab, kya hua? Jhagda karte." I said, but then the question is that this is again, I would say, that not allowing the people in the temple, ultimately we are depriving on the right of religion. This is what it is. So if this particular system persists, that society is not integrated society, it's a fractured society. So if the state is fractured, it creates further cracks in the society, further fracture in the society by denying right, economic right, or a social right, or a ethnic right, or religious right. That denial itself is an injustice. So going further, when you talk about the failed states, like Pakistan is a failed state. Even temple of justice, courts are considered the temple of justice. Now you are going to be the future lawyers. I go to the court for a particular case. At the lower level, the judges are also corrupt. My own experience. All judges may not be, but there is a corruption in the court. There is a corruption in the higher courts. There is a delay. Even that is also denial of right. Justice delayed is justice denied. So the lawyers will say justice hurried is justice buried. Now, these are the two axioms on which, we operate. Now, my case, a very simple case, going on for the last 10 or 12 years. Other case, where about 600 people are involved. Supreme Court has given the judgment, but state is not given. Again, there's a denial of justice, or justice and denial of my economic right. Further, when you go to the other aspect of, temples in South India, they said you must wear a particular kind of a dhoti, then only you can enter the temple. Why? Do you think my clothes are unclean? And do you think my soul is also unclean? I'm actually taking my soul to the God and not my physical body. But then they said, no, this is our rule. Hundreds and thousands of rupees of the politicians are deposited in the temple which is supposed to be moral and ethical. Hundreds and crores of rupees, I would say billions of rupees. Now, this is again the religious institution doing injustice to the masses. If that money is taken out, I'm all for taking out that money. Take that money and distribute it in the way. I'm not saying that you give gift to everybody, but invest in something so that the poor people can, only for the poor people below poverty line, give them this money, and India will be prosperous, not by lectures and by slogans. India can't become, so rights are means to an end. The rights that we talk about is a means to an end. Now we talk about something like say migration from say Gujarat or Punjab or even any other state of India. Hundreds of Gujaratis have settled there. Okay, they still speak Gujarati language. Their sons now, the children, a boy or a girl, they hardly speak broken Gujarati or a broken Marathi. But then they have become economically better off than what they would be in India. So for achieving economic equality, or a guarantee, security, economic security, that's a proper word. They have gone to America, but at the same time, in their heart, India still exists. So they are doubly loyal, their heart or their socially, they would like to come back to India and get married, their son to get married in India, most of the things. Now it is happening that the Americans are marrying, the American Indians are marrying American Indians who are settled for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, etc. But still there is a community which comes to India in search of a girl from the same community, same caste. Anyway, so my point here is that they have a double citizenship in their heart. American citizenship in order to have economic justice, and social relationship with India in order to have a social justice. So they should be accepted in Gujarat as a Gujarati. They should be accepted in Maharashtra as a Maharashtrian. But then the question arises that when they go, what is the reason? Gujarat is supposed to be the most prosperous state in India, but there's the highest migration of Gujaratis from Gujarat to either Canada, America, Australia, England, or some other European countries, where they find comfort. So it is only because Michael Clare, there's a very fine scholar, Michael Clare, he has written a book on migration issue, and there he says that pastoral area and non-pastoral area. Pastoral area is an area where there is an economic abundance. Affluence is there, economic abundance. In USA, there is economic abundance. In Canada, there is economic abundance. You go there and within 2 months, you get maximum 2 months time, you get a job. But then it's a job of the second-class citizen. You have, barring few, very few elite scientists, doctors, or engineers, top engineers, they get elitist, category in America. Treatment, I would say, social treatment. The American would not mind going to an Indian doctor if he or she is slightly cheaper or better than the American doctor. So these services are recognized, but then the other Indians, they don't mind, Indians coming, because they say that ours is a society of immigrants. So let them come, and they need it. They need taxi drivers. They need waiters in the hotel. They need nurses. Now their prosperity has gone to such a level. Like I would ask Nitisha, would you like to work as a waitress in a hotel? No, because you have achieved a particular status with your social, community, with your education, and you will be a respectable lawyer next day. Therefore, you will not accept, but here, even a friend of mine who was an assistant professor here with a PhD went to America with his family. And then when I went there, I expressed my desire to meet him. So another friend, a common friend, he said that no, he has gone to work. I said, work? Which work? He said his shift is in the evening, 4 to 12. So I said, shift, which means that labor. So he is working as an educated labor there. Mind you, an assistant professor. Works from 4 to 12, sometimes 8 to 4, or sometimes midnight. Now, is there any dignity? If you give me billions of dollars also, I will not do that job. Let me tell you. In 75, when the Americans asked me, when I was there for the first time, they asked me, would you like to go back to India? That's a common question they used to ask. I said, yes, I will. Because I will eat bhaji bhakri. But I would like to go back to my country. And they said, the next day newspaper, young Indians, that time I was young, not now, young Indians, proud and patriotic. Now, this kind of a thing, a dilemma creates, in your mind. The people who have migrated there and who apply for American citizenship. One Maharashtrian technical man, working a scientist, when it came to interview, he was asked, if there's a war between America and India, would you fight on behalf of America? My God, he had such a mental commotion in his, and he found it so difficult to say yes. Finally, he said yes. But then he said that the trauma that I underwent was terrible. Now, this is how the what you may call it, the traumas of migration. You accept that particular society or that particular society. I have never seen most of the Indians where I stayed or where I have interacted going to elitist parties organized by the Americans. Mind you, in company it's okay when there is a big international organization or a company, industrial house, they will throw party occasionally, maybe once in a year or twice in a year. But then the migrated crowd is somewhere different in a corner. They are not actually talking. Maybe one or two exceptions are there, but this is how they feel a complex in a different society. Supposing tomorrow I have my wedding anniversary and I throw a big party and the people come. Do you think that I will invite my maid servant or my peon or my clerk to the party? No, because we have again a notion of superiority and inferiority, whether we practice or not. When I give money or my check or anything to my peon, who is untouchable, he belongs to the untouchable community, he puts his hand like this. So I make it a point to touch him and make him feel that I'm not throwing money from top, you know. And then my mother used to object his coming and bringing flowers for the God, for puja for God. Then I said that no, after all, he's a human being. It took me a couple of months, years to convince my mother. So the convictions or the practices are so rigid. They are also enemies of human rights or human dignity. Okay. Now these are all the simple things that we are talking about. But then if you look to the states like Pakistan, many times Pakistan has been branded as a failed state. When you have a failed state, that only one particular group of people have power, the army, the Allah, and 3 A's, army, Allah, and America. Okay, Allah means the religion. Now they are ruling Pakistan. And there is a book, the title of the book is Pakistan, the Hard Country. Now, in that book, one thing is mentioned, and I was really, shocked and surprised. When the murderer is caught, now he commits a murder either on his own or on behalf of his boss. When he's caught, the court case goes on. He's convicted, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, or lifetime. But within 2 or 3 months, he's out of the jail. How he comes out? It's the influence of that particular landlord or the strongman who's there in Karachi or in Balochistan or in Punjab. So they actually dominate judiciary, they dominate the state and do whatever they like, which is convenient to them at the cost. But the cost is paid is that of you are creating a puncture in the society. Okay, so far as justice is concerned, it is denied. Justice is not done, and therefore these are called the fractured societies. When the society, which is the foundation of the state, if that society is fractured on caste basis, on the religious basis, on the regional basis, or any other, say, sex, for example, a woman is denied job. Recently there was a debate, if you have heard, the women joining the armed forces. Okay, I fully agreed with it. Why not? But then I had one worry in my mind. What? Tomorrow, supposing if women officers, they will go as officers mostly, not as recruits. BSF has got women recruits. Central Police has BSF recruits, but they don't go to war. But supposing women prisoners of war are there, what kind of a treatment the enemy will give them? Torture. And torture, which kind of torture to a woman? You can imagine. So from that perspective, I had my reservation. Okay. Anyway, so equality to women also is a big question in a country like India. How many? Only I believe 7 or 8% women are working. In Mumbai, the number may be high because Mumbai is a different city than the other. Mumbai, nobody bothers about like you are traveling in the train and there's an untouchable next to you. And even if somebody tells you, say, no, I want to sit with I want to sit, if there's a seat nearby where untouchable is sitting and you tell anybody, man or woman, that there's an untouchable sitting, he cares more for the state than the person. Now, this is cosmopolitan living. Cosmopolitanism is also very important, where you actually have a broader outlook to life, whereby dignity of the man or woman is protected or respected. Now, this is how we talk about the fractured society. Now, Indian society, as I say, it's a general rule that any state, whether you take American state, English state, or a German state, or an Indian state, or a Pakistan state, all states are based on the foundation of the society. And if the foundation is weak, if the foundation is ruptured or fractured, then that state is also weak. So that's why quite a few people say that the state of Pakistan is a failed state. It's a weak state. It's a poor state. So ultimately, there are wills within the wills, whereby if you want to become strong, India, the great country, there's a very nice book by one political scientist, Bharat Karnad, India not yet get great power. I had also written a very long article while I was in the United States, way to great powership. Now, this particular phenomenon can be true only if our society is made strong. Now, tomorrow, we have created a situation. Are you able to listen? Okay, fine. So, are you able to create a situation where I was telling you about how at the social level, mine is not a complete research, but experience. I was in Washington. I took a cab and went to my place. $7 with the bill of the taxi. When I started giving him in a conversation while we were traveling, about half an hour drive, he refused to take money. He said, "No, aap to India se ho, hamare bhai jaise ho." I was surprised at the gesture of a taxi driver. Then I told him, I said, "You park, why don't you come and have a coffee?" It was 12 o'clock in the night. He said, "No, if I park here, I'll get a ticket. But I'll come some other time. If I go by this," I said, "This is my flat number." Then I went to a German restaurant. My friend, a very close friend, he is no more. A Pakistani professor was already there, and we knew each other very well earlier also. So we spent a lot of time with each other. He took me to a restaurant called Taj Restaurant, and then we ate something, and then we walked out. Second day also we went, ate something, and I was happy to have Indian food in Germany, Heidelberg. Next day, the third or fourth day, I went alone. So I had biryani and then some ice cream. And I said, "What is the check?" Check means they call it check instead of bill. So they said, "No money." I said, "No, you ought to." He's a Pakistani owner, mind you. "No money." I said, "Why?" "No, I can't take money from you." I said, "Then from next day, I will not come to your restaurant. You must take money." He said, "Then I know where you are staying. Where you are staying, because your friend knows me very well and I know where he was staying. So you must be staying there. So I'll come home and deliver you food." Now, this is the kind. In Chicago, also one Pakistani couple, we started talking because we looked similar. And then he said that you must come and spend weekend. And he gave me gala treatment on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday evening. He dropped me back almost about 50, 60 miles. Now, this is what I'm giving personal experience. And then how can I have enmity with a Muslim? I have many Muslim friends who I go and have Eid celebration. Muslim friends are my colleagues, my juniors, my seniors. So I don't have any that kind of inhibition about being a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Jew or anything. I don't look into the man as a Christian or a Muslim. Let him live his life according to his own culture. Let him live. And now, you don't have to bring history, the past history, into account so far as the modern living is concerned. Because most of the global states are multicultural states, where you find, like in America, you will find Filipinos, you will find Vietnamese, you will find Chinese, you will find Pakistanis, hundreds of Indians, then Mexicans, and you name it, from Spain and so many other places. Now the question is, that these are multicultural societies, and they live happily, they earn happily because they are given economic right, they are given social right, they are not discriminated. If supposing an Indian is killed by somebody, some American, you go to the court and the law of the land will do the justice, not because he's Indian or he's American. Even the American can be convicted for 1 month or 1 year or 10 years or 15 years, whatever it is, the offense is. So here is something called multicultural society. Now, because we are also multicultural, mind you, you talk about South Indian and the North Indian. Now, don't you think that South Indian culture is very much different from the North Indian culture? It's very much different. You see the movie called Two States, right? Now, the issue is, I have not seen, of course, but then I heard, and my cousin's son married a South Indian girl. So I'm coming back to the issue that so far as this is concerned now, with the modern opportunities, in the modern world, modern societies, communication, transportation, a Madrasi will go and he speaks perfect Hindi. He speaks Hindi better than, I think, the sometimes, you know, the Hindi wala. Hindi has many, you know, what you call it, angles, you know. And Banarasi will speak different Hindi, UP wala will speak different Hindi, Bihari will speak different Hindi. Anyway, so coming back to the issue, that so far as India is concerned, we still pass sometimes, you know, a kind of a नेगेटिव जजमेंट कि वो तो साउथ इंडियन है, वो तो साउथ इंडियन होगा, वो ऐसा ही होगा, वो मराठी होगा तो ऐसा ही होगा, वो ऐसा है तो ऐसा ही होगा. Now, my a very close friend living in the same building, his daughter is married to a Sindhi, and one person, you know, passed a very cryptic comment. Then I said that, look, Sindhis also have generosity. Look at this. The kind of a prosperity level that they have reached in Mumbai. They are actually one of the top investors, hospital owners, and they are doing a lot of work. They came in a situation where they had to behave in a particular way, mind you. It compelled them to behave. Now, my friend, I am talking about 25 years back, he was having a sports store. So after our cricket, you know, we used to go and, you know, sit in his shop. Cutting the whole story short, he was then started a small shop somewhere in the midst of the city. I went there. He ordered for a Amiri cha. Now this is famous for the favorite of the Sindhis, and it used to cost 3 rupees. Then he called me. He called for a Bengali pan. That was also costing about 3 rupees. And then as I started going, he said, "Thero, Dilip, तुम्हारा वो 5-6 रुपया वो कैसेट लिया था तुमने, उसका बाकी है." So I said, "अरे 6 रुपया भी तूने चाय और पान खिलाने में खिलाया और ये 5 रुपये तो." But I didn't ask him. But then I said, business is business, you know. So they have certain values, but they also have the audacity of hospitality. But circumstances in those days when they came as refugees, it was something different. So we looked upon them as, you know, we still have that prejudice in our mind that they are like this. Anyway, so moving from this particular angle, as I said, I'm referring to Samuel Huntington, Clash of Civilizations. He said the ideological war is over with the end of Cold War. Okay, the ideology does not play much of a role. Strategic issue plays a very important role in the interstate relations. Agreed. So he said that the future war is going to be the civilizational wars, one civilization against the other. And there we find the rise of Islamic radicalism. The Islamic State, and they are fighting whom? The Western civilization. They may be fighting Hindu civilization. Now, these are the people who have created severe and serious cracks in their own society. Shia and Sunni. You take Kurds, they are also Islamic. The real Iraqis are also Islamic. But there is a lot of difference between Iraqis and the Iranis. So there is a crack in the society and the conflict. And I'm not concentrating on conflict, but the violation of human rights on the basis of religious sect, Shia and Sunni, or Brahman and Kshatriya, Brahman and Shudra, Kshatriya and Baniya. All these are the cracks that we are creating, and if the state policy is such which actually encourage such cracks, in that case, the denial of law, denial of justice, all the three aspects of human life, economic, social, and political justice. And then where there's a book called Myron Winner has written Scarcity of Politics, where today the voting is not done on merit. Voting is done on either a bottle of whiskey, daru, ya to money. So money you give to the community and say that ye khana pina khao 4 din and you vote for this man. It still works today. Then some people are actually exploited in the name of religion, and they quote old history. Like, I feel very sorry when Nehru is demeaned, because Nehru had done a great thing. He established the base for a modern India. He started IITs. He started, space stations. He started nuclear power stations. He started, IIMs and so many dams. So we must appreciate that he's doing. But while doing that, if I honor, Nehru, or if I respect Nehru, then I will be actually either harassed or my freedom of speech will be denied. This is something called the religious nationalism, or something called politics of democracy also plays a very, very important role. Now, I'm not going to speak for a little long. I have, in the first speech, I gave a long, many good points, but then I would like to, put down that so far as economic justice is concerned, is the order of the day. If you go to see the research or researches, 20% wealth is controlled by just about, say, 15% elite class. There is a book which says that the world is ruled by only few, that is about 4,000 or 5,000 people. That's all over the world. And they are in align with each other, like religious leaders and the politicians. I don't like religious leaders to be part of politics. Do your job. Do your job of providing morality and ethics to the people, but don't, get into politics. Render into gods the things that are gods, and render into Caesar the things that are Caesars. Means you do something which is Caesar, that is state, and do something which is, so you restrict your role to a particular thing. So coming back to the issue where, we talk about the modern states, where there is a scarcity of economics, there we find that many, loopholes in our democratic world. Today, the biggest, debate that is going on is democracy on decline? Like India also, you must have seen that many people, Amartya Sen, and there are so many other scholars, economists, they said that the democracy in India is on decline, because you only work for the people and then you read in the newspaper, oh, Adani has become the richest man in Asia. Oh, Mukesh Ambani has become the richest man in the world. All this kind of thing, and you feel happy as if you have become, rich. No, they have become, I'm not a Marxist, but it's a Marxist argument that all rich people have become rich at the cost of the rest of the people. And they have become rich, and once they become rich, they are alienated from the society. They have their own society, and the poor people have their own society. Middle class has their own society, and ultimately the denial of socio-economic justice. So ultimately, when you are talking about migration will take place. It will be on the increase, but this migration may also lead to certain conflicts, and conflicts mean denial of human rights. Migration will also add to prosperity, but only of the few states which are technically and scientifically advanced in the world. That's why Nehru said that you must develop scientific temper. The whole point is like, I was going for a haircut. So my auntie said, "Nahi, nahi, aaj shaniwar hai, haircut mat lena." So I said, why? I kept asking this question to so many people. She said, no. Then I realized, I went to Mumbai to meet my friend near VJTI. And I said, there was a South Indian, very learned fellow. He had known religion and Vedas and everything very well. So I said, Ramesh, is Ramesh at home? He said, no, he will come in another half an hour or so. So I said that this man is the right person who can answer my question. I said, why should people not take haircut on Saturday? So he said, it's Hanumanji's day. I said, but what objection Hanumanji has? He said, no, there's a custom. But I said, why this custom developed? Then I asked him, did you have shave in the morning before going to office? He said, yes. Then what is the difference between cutting lower part of your hair and not cutting the upper part of your hair? You are dividing your hair into two parts. And he could not answer. The point is that we believe in all these aspects which actually exaggerate the dignity of man or the rights of the people. Understand? So these are also the values, wrong values of the society which are prevalent, and they deny the dignity of man and thereby dignity of human rights. And it is happening all over the world, either on the basis of religion, caste, color, creed, or a place of birth, or place of origin. Everything is happening. So from this perspective, now I conclude with the idea that there is no government. There is a Hedley Bull, an Australian scholar. He says, ours is an anarchical world. Anarchy means not law and order. And then America wanted to become a kind of the United States of America was called as the policeman of the world, if you know. Then the Americans would go everywhere to preserve democracy. The Americans would go everywhere where there is something called an ideology which is not acceptable to humanity, like communism, for example. They will, if you read the book Dr. Zhivago, then how mercilessly the elite class was destroyed in the Russian Revolution. So ultimately, what happens is, like when you talk about this aspect, the United States of America wanted to establish and act as a world power, world government, but then it's not happening. The decline of America debate has started. Whether it will decline or not, only the future will say. But from this perspective, the students of law, I would advise that so far as your cases are concerned, see that you are doing justice to your client. Make it a point to see that if this case requires only 6 months, finish it off in 6 months. If this case requires 2 years, but not, prolong it, so that, as it is jokingly said, that if you go to Supreme Court, then your grandson will get the justice, but not you. So you die and see from above heaven whether justice is done or not. This is how the scene is. So as long as the courts are not independent, powerful, and assert their existence in a democratic world, but if they become subservient to political parties or government, that is politics, then again there is no hope of getting human dignity or human rights. Thank you so much. Is it okay?
Yes. Yes, sir. So, on behalf of the entire Moot Society, I, 𝗓𝗫𝗄𝗧, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Dilip Mohite, for sparing his precious time to share his valuable insights with all of us. I'm sure that our participants have benefited immensely from the knowledge that you have imparted, sir, and will be able to approach the competition with much more confidence. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our principal, Dr. 𝗗𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗽 for encouraging us to organize and participate in events that help us to interact with such great personalities. And lastly, I would also like to thank our faculty in charge, Dr. 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗃, for always being the pillar of strength and supporting us throughout. Now, I would request Sir for a photo, and for the same, I would request everyone, those who can, to please turn on their cameras.
Just one sentence. I would like to tell Madam 𝗓𝗠𝗃 that your students, from the talking point of view, they look so competent that they are going to be very successful lawyer, and I'm sure they will make it to the highest position. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Honored to hear this from you. Thank you, sir. Honored to have this word from you. And I'm sure our students will make up to that faith that you have imposed on them. And at Pravin Gandhi, we have been always trying to give them a holistic perspective, sir. As a 5-year law college, our initiative is basically endeavor is to make them have a holistic perception about everything, because law cannot be done in isolation. A societal issue cannot be looked only from the legal dimension. So they need to have a perspective overall on an issue. So with this initiative only, we have conduct different events where there is a interdisciplinary approach is there. So the SAARC Moot was also selected in that way, taking up issues of common concern from the SAARC area, so that it gives them a good exposure in understanding. Just want to share certain thoughts of mine which came to my mind when I was reading the Moot problem. So this is primarily to the participants, to the people who are participating in the Moot court competition. For the other students who are not participating in the Moot, our own students, I just want to tell you one thing, that the Moot problem, like you have heard your senior student, Moot Court Society chairperson mentioning to you that Amit has mentioned very beautifully the objective behind organizing this specific Moot. We need to understand that why we have selected SAARC. Okay, why we have selected SAARC as an area for conducting a Moot problem. It could have been a general Moot problem, Moot court competition, who is not confining to a particular area of the world. So did you see this? We have confined ourselves to a particular area of the world instead of going by specific law. Like it is not relating to a specific law problem. It is relating to a specific area of the world. Now, all of us, being a 5-year law college, we have been doing political science, and then we are doing international law. So all of us have a little bit of understanding about the SAARC issues, and the participants coming from different parts of the country and being studying the Moot problem knows the peculiarity of the South Asian region. Certain things that comes into my mind regarding the peculiarity of the South Asian region. What is the peculiarity of the South Asian region? Number one, there is great economic diversity. There's lots of economic disparity. I mean, the standard of economic condition of all the SAARC member states is not the same. Some of them, none of them are, you cannot put them on the par of the advanced economy of the world. It is not possible to put them on the advanced economy of the world. Some of them are developing economy, but most of them are the low income countries. So this reality of the SAARC countries, we have to keep it in mind when you talk about cross-border migration. So when the economic conditions are not in the same parameters, migration all over the world have a definite set of pattern. In South Asia, also the same pattern is followed. So cross-border migration is primarily fueled by the fact that there is lack of employment opportunities, there is real poverty, to name a few. In this particular Moot problem, when I was reading it, it was primarily because of poverty. They have migrated to the other neighboring state. So if I'm not mistaken, there was a crisis situation regarding food, right? Organizing team members can help me in that. Something to do with the food security. So now, why it is important? Because all of us know about it, the basic human requirements: food, shelter. Food is one of the basic requirements. So in because of that, they migrate to other states. And then climate change. One more thing that you have to keep it in mind is that climate change is causing havoc in the South Asian region, particularly India and Bangladesh. So a lot of climate change conditions has resulted in decline of agricultural productivity. And that has also resulted in rural poverty and ultimately cross-border migration. So what happens in the cross-border migration? The receiving state, the receiving state where the migration takes place, they face a lot of host of problems, which can be taken as economic, social, political issues. Okay, so now the population is increased. The migrant adds to the population of the state. So there is a now competition to the scarce resources of the state. As I told you earlier, the SAARC countries' economic disparity is something that makes the migration issue more complicated. So now there are more people who are trying to have a share in the social security system. So that is what exactly has happened in this case. So initially everything was good, and over a period of time they had an economic, if I'm not mistaken, the receiving state has an economic downfall, and which has resulted in creating a kind of made the state unable to maintain the social security network. So when the state is unable to maintain the social security network, then the government of the state started deviating away from governmental responsibility. One of the governmental responsibility is to provide, a kind of food security to the people. Now, I told you earlier what food security is by the definition of FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. Food security means that every individual, all individuals should have an access, should have an economic, social, physical access to what? To safe, sufficient and nutritious food, which should enable them to maintain their dietary requirement as well as nutrition requirement and to lead a healthy and active life. So that is what the food security is, and that is the governmental obligation to provide the food security. Now, changing economic condition has resulted in the receiving state, whatever condition had happened in the receiving state, made the state, social security measures that they were maintaining earlier, they were not being able to maintain. So there is a kind of a now discrimination, and the discrimination problem probably happened is that I don't think that in the Moot problem they are bringing that diversity issue. Have they brought the diversity issue? I did not see anywhere the demographic diversity, but in South Asia, one more issue that complicates the migration issue, especially in context of India and Bangladesh, in context of Assam, is the demographic diversity. Demographic diversity creates a kind of an situation which makes the migration issue more complicated. So the allegation is that food security is something which has been deliberately done. Okay, deliberately done, and that is what the participants are supposed to deliberate upon, whether it was a genocide or not. Okay, so everything, the entire Moot problem is picking up a pertinent issue of common concern of the SAARC countries. Migration is something inevitable. In any from the in the SAARC South Asian region also, there are a lot of cross-border migration. There are a lot of cross-border migration. Why the people migrate from one state to another is understood. But what makes the matter more complicated in case of South Asian region is that economic condition of the receiving state. Economic condition of the receiving state, they are not always advanced economy. So they also have their own problem. Okay, so then arises issue of alleged discrimination done by the government of the receiving state towards the migrant population, and that's how starts the acquisition of depriving the people from or deliberately indulging in certain kinds of human rights violations. So that is what the Moot problem is. This is what I have to share after reading the issue.